stories of Navy personnel being charged with an offense is not true. This is according to Roy Exum. He says a spokesman for the U.S. Navy on Sunday denied reports that disciplinary charges will be filed against Lieutenant Commander Timothy White. And then there seems to be a typo in here, but of Navy personnel connected to this tragic incident, but at this time we can confirm no service member has been charged with an offense. Okay, well that's obvious. No one's been charged, and of course the word tragic incident is not the fact that is the fact of the massacre, not the fact of the commander firing his weapon. That is not the tragic incident at all, of course. But that's everyone's talking about tragedy, and so it's just kind of soupy that everyone refers to this massacre by a faithful Muslim, right, who is not radicalized, but just a faithful Muslim. That is a tragedy. It's not a tragedy. It's a massacre. There's a different tragedy. Tragedy in the classical sense refers to some kind of character flaw, such as that of Macbeth, right? That brings a man into destruction. A good man brought to destruction by a character flaw. That's a tragedy in the strict sense. Now, tragedy is, I'd say the word is overused, just like in the week that this happened, back in mid-July, where everyone said our thoughts and prayers was the phrase that was so widely used, though it seemed to hold no content anymore. It was just something that people felt they had to say. People who didn't pray would say that, and then people who are Christians, as Timothy White is, who would say that, and then they actually not pray about what happened or what was unfolding at the moment in the lives of the participants, the men who were the survivors of the slain, and the branches of the public service involved. Mark Caldwell is quoted by Roy Exum, apparently writes for Patriot Post, and he says, in our Patriot Post U.S. commentary on the Islamist assault in Chattanooga, we noted that sources advised there were at least 2 personal weapons belonging to military personnel which were recovered at the Reserve Center. We also noted the unfortunate restrictions against such weapons, and that if there were personal weapons in the possession of some military personnel on the scene, that would be a UCMJ violation by law. Navy JAG. JAG is Judge Advocates General. Okay, that's what that means, JAG. There's a TV show with that name. Navy JAG will be obligated to review the case. Navy JAG can't pick and choose which felony violations they will review and which they won't, nor should they be condemned for being obligated to review this case. Indeed, Lieutenant Commander Tim White, he goes on to say, quoted by Roy Exum, is now indicated that he was in possession of a personal weapon and did return fire, either suppression cover fire to allow his personnel to take cover, or perhaps he fired directly at the assailant. Again, by law, this would be subject to review, and that has been understood from the moment personal weapons were recovered. Well, clearly that there's something there of merit, that there is don't forget, an investigation doesn't mean that something bad is happening, right? If you, my listener, shot someone, you would want to be cleared by an inquest, right? An inquest is effectively a trial. A trial is not always an evil thing. A trial is a way that you can clear your name. And what happens in a trial or an inquest, I think in other countries where, such as I think in Great Britain and maybe in some European countries, the trial is called an inquest, which is simply a public investigation of what has happened. There are witnesses who step forth, evidence is produced. It is partly by accusation, but partly in recognition that someone has been killed or someone was involved in an incident or an attack or an event of high moment, right, of great moment, great importance. You have an inquest, so you have a trial. So really, I say in a way, Timothy White has perhaps worries for his career in the details, but in the main, the inquest or the JAG officers are going to find out what happened. Now, whether or not he has the right to be free of self-incrimination, I don't know. In military jurisprudence, if he has the right just to be accused and then to face his defenders, I have the feeling that Timothy White was very cooperative. And though the press coverage, well, the coverage of the Chattanooga Times-Free Press seemed quite limited as to what he said. Only his wife was quoted, not him, perhaps on advice of counsel. And she, Franicia, said, he values human life enough to protect his sailors and others. I am honored to be his wife and stand by him 100%. So that is what we haven't heard from him directly, but we have in this story that came out late last week in the newspaper, we have his wife quoted. Now, let's just quickly, since we are concerned about local economy, we want there to be as little needless trouble for Lieutenant Commander Timothy White as possible. Though he has to face the rules that apparently he broke. Now, did he break the rules or not? I'm looking at the part of a 108-page paper, if you will, a kind of a very tedious. We have a call coming. A very tedious disquisition on the rules. David Tulis, you're on the air, caller.
I'm going to take exception to a couple of things. First of all, trials are more than just clearing one's name, because that should be done during the investigation, where the prosecutor drops the case because there's not enough evidence to prosecute. Because once you go to trial, it's very, very expensive, and you're going up against the power of the state, which can indict a leaf and will convince the jury that you're guilty. They will do that because the judge determines the evidence that's allowed. So trials typically are to catch good and bad people for mainly political reasons, like in this case. Now, this gentleman that fired back would have been smart to say, if you intend to investigate me for violating what you consider a law, which I don't, because I don't know how you can tell a military man he can't carry a sidearm. And you said that the state has a right to regulate weapons. They do not. States don't have any rights. They're denied powers. And they were denied under the Second Amendment any power to regulate any weapon. Every single gun law that's ever been passed by any state, local, or federal system is illegal and unconstitutional. And I would further say that anyone that does that needs to be imprisoned for sedition or treason, high treason. You cannot regulate a weapon. You cannot tell someone in the military or outside the military they cannot carry something to protect themselves. And that goes back to biblical doctrine. So all these legal fictions that are created by the system are lies. This guy did nothing wrong. Every single military person in this country has a right to carry a weapon and has every Bill of Rights under the Bill of Rights. And that's my position.
Well, we're going to look at the rules that Commander White is bound by, that he agreed to bound by entering the servitude of the Navy, and that would be in Section 0306, Personal Firearm Safety Control and Accountability. Now, the rule is that he has to have permission of the ICO. Of course, he is the ICO. ICO means what does ICO mean? It refers to him. He is the ICO of the facility. He is the facility commanding officer, or the institution commanding officer. Yeah, here it is. ICO is Installation Commanding Officer, and so he had authority to grant himself by his own position the presence of this weapon. Now, what are the rules about how that weapon is to be kept? Handgun or long gun? Well, there's a whole series of obligations and rules. For example, if you have a very small car and you don't have a trunk, your weapon can be brought into the facility with your in your car, but it has to be disassembled. If it's in the trunk, it has to be kept in a locked and secured box of some kind. Ammunition will be transported in a separate compartment from the one in which the firearm is stored, one of the rules says, such as a glove box or a secure interior storage box in the passenger compartment. The installation commanding officer has a duty. He shall establish a process for the strict control and accountability of personal firearms authorized on board Navy installations. And then there's a list of minimums, including registration, inventory, receipt, and deregistration of personal firearms. These, again, are paperwork offenses, if anything. And so he is facing these paperwork hassles. A caller makes a point that he's if he goes under trial, that's for his life. It's really very serious. This is David Tulis. I've got something I want you to hear.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. When my brother and I opened the first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
We've got a table here at Delia's and Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas, every featured on the menu today. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's and Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
News Talk 1240.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items. For Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. HotNewsTalkRadio.com and half off. Surf our site and ride the wave of savings.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the Southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingraham, David Tulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Pam Puso. It's ambitious and controversial. A White House plan mandating a 32% cut in greenhouse gas emissions from power plants to combat climate change.
We can see it and we can feel it. Hotter summers, rising sea levels, extreme weather events like stronger storms.
The plan previewed by President Obama in a Facebook video. Opponents say they'll sue. Memphis police are looking for Tremaine Wilborn.
You gunned down, you murdered a police officer. You've literally destroyed a family.
Police Director Tony Armstrong says Officer Sean Bolton was killed after interrupting a drug deal. Raging in Northern California. A wildfire in the Lower Lake area north of San Francisco. It's already consumed 24 homes and threatens thousands more. 21 major fires are burning across the state. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Noogonomics with David Tulis.
Lieutenant Commander Timothy White, who is under investigation as a Navy man, installation commander, for his personal weapon and firing it at an attacker, had numerous rules to enforce regarding personal weapons. He was the man to allow personal weapons in that facility that was shot up. in which 5 people were either killed or mortally wounded. For example, one of the rules that obligated him in that position was that he had to have a semi-annual site inventories by serial number of personal firearms stored in Navy armories. So was his weapon subject to that kind of semi-annual site inventory? For example, another rule: personal firearms approved for storage in an existing installation, armory, or magazine shall not be stored in the same container or weapons rack with government arms, ammunition, and explosives. So were private weapons found on that facility by investigators in a locked up place where other weapons were, or were they on the man himself? Were they in his briefcase? Were they stuck by a magnet under the main drawer of his desk, assuming it's a 1955 issue steel case desk, right? Another rule is that this official is in charge of development of procedures for individuals to possess, introduce, transport, or use properly registered firearms on board a Navy installation for authorized purposes. Well, a lot of these rules are written just to trip people up. They're written so that whatever the people at the top want to do, they can do it. They can find you in violation of something. That's why military rule and statutory rule out of Congress are quite different from Christianity, where you have just a few basic rules, right? Christianity doesn't have a massive compendium of laws such as the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, which flows out of the Congress. Well, not out of the Congress. It flows out of regulatory agencies serving the executive branch. Well, these are rules that Timothy White, the practicing Christian, a very faithful Christian man, apparently from an essay I read from him, married. He's an optimist, a huge optimist. He has 7 children, 1 on the way, I guess you could say, wombed in his wife Franicia's midsection, expected sometime soon. 2 personal weapons were recovered from the shot up facility there along the riverfront by Chat State, and one of them was that of Timothy White. Will he, of course, get his weapon back in good working order? Will he be cleared of the investigation? The trouble with having all these kinds of rules is that it puts the superiors under an obligation to investigate and prosecute. Because think for a second, why did Timothy White have his weapon? Why did he do so, perhaps in spite of, with disregard of the rules? Well, because he knew that his personal safety was in danger, and that when your personal safety is in danger, you cannot go into a lockbox. You cannot then go into the lockbox, assemble your weapon, put the clip in, pull the hammer back to insert a round into the chamber, and then be ready. By then, you may be already dead. So a weapon has to be personally available to him. Probably it was in his briefcase, and he took it out and he used it. Why do you break rules? Well, what are his defenses? Well, okay, his defense is necessity. There's a very important defense of necessity. For example, if you, my listener, are rushing your wife to the hospital to give birth, you cannot be charged with violating a traffic rule. Okay, even if you're 20 miles over, you cannot be charged. And if you are, your defense is necessity, and that will make the case go away in quick order. The commander can say, well, we are facing danger, and the rules do not allow for facing existential threats to my person and to my men. And again, that's a kind of necessity which requires forethought and deliberate deliberate disregard of the myriad pettifogging Navy rules that he was the steward of as the installation commanding officer, the ICO. Well, he disregarded the rules perhaps to some extent, but he did so because a greater rule in his mind stood before him to obey. And what was that? Well, personal safety, the safety of my men in light of ISIS, in light of the Muslim threat to Christianity, to the besotted West, to secularism, to all that the United States stands for. You know, the Muslims are attacking Americans not just because they're Christians. That's probably their worst fault, I guess, that there are many Christians in the United States. But their worst fault is that they are, they are invaders, imperialists, and warmongers, and meddlers of the worst sort. But primarily, I would say that the greatest infidelity from the Muslim perspective is that many Christians, especially in the South, favor the Lord Jesus Christ. They favor the God that is described and taught in the Holy Scriptures, right? In the 66 books of the Bible. And getting back to the risks of facing this man, he's facing investigation. We have an argument going on here at on the David Tulis show about should he be investigated or not. Some people say, well, just drop the investigation entirely. He should be given a clear bill of health regardless of what he did. But I'd say that what he has to do is face courageously the trouble he knew would come. He knew that if he violated the rules but had occasion to save human life, he knew that he would be in trouble. But he did it regardless, right? He did it because a greater law applied to him, the greater law of personal safety, and be able to have recourse when you face an overwhelming onslaught, a surprise attack, as it were, by a paramilitary actor, which is the best way to describe Muhammad Abdulaziz. He was not a terrorist. He is not responsible for an act of terrorism. Okay, it was a military attack by a non-state paramilitary actor. That's the best way of putting it. Religiously motivated? Indeed he was. He was a faithful Muslim. And make note, the federal government will not say he was radicalized. Okay, he was not radicalized. Therefore, the threat is even greater. That the federal government will not, that Bill Killian will not say that he was radicalized. That Ed Reinhold, the field agent out of Knoxville in charge of the investigation, that he will not say that Abdulaziz was radicalized is extraordinarily important. What they're saying is that he was just an ordinary faithful Muslim. He wasn't radical at all. He was just doing what not radical people, but Muslim people do, especially if they're addled, especially if they have some guilt that they're trying to assuage. Well, you can be forgiven all these things, all your sins, all your drinking sins, your eating pork sins, your not fasting at Ramadan sins, all the sins that Muslim people believe they're guilty of before their God. These guilt systems can be wiped away. They can be cleansed from the soul of the ardent believer in Allah by an act of jihad. And that's what he did. He expiated his sin. He wrote off the sin of his secularized life here in America, the life that his father wanted him to get away from, right? His filthy American friends, their low life habits, their drinking, their carousing, and all those things. That's why his father sent him to Jordan for a bit of refreshment, right? For a bit of finding the truth in himself, finding the truth of the older way that the followers of Muhammad believe in, and believe is the right and only true way. And so Timothy White was the man who was countering that kind of man, right? Countering the average Muslim who took it upon himself to bear arms, not for defense, but for offense, right? An offensive act, a personal invasion, a one-man invasion force, sans body armor. He didn't even have any body armor. He was so courageous, so bold, such a martyr. Muhammad Abdulaziz is, right? He is a martyr because he did all these things careless of his personal safety, not caring a whit how many rounds entered his flesh before he went dark there in the grass or on the pavement of that facility centered by the river. Well, my name is David Tulis, and we are here at Noogonomics.com weighing the case that is being built right now against Timothy White. I want to say a little bit more about him, and particularly on connecting with another story. There's a story, and maybe I'll get to that. There's a story on TV9's website about Joe Keller. Joe Keller is a man who fled local economy for better places. He went to Colorado. But before I mention the prayers that are being given to God for this missing young man, I just wanted to mention Bruce Krebs. Bruce Krebs is the man who has a solution for what we understand to be the pending problem and the pending crisis, and that is that you have your own business. And I'm living out my ideas, my ideals, if you will, here in local economy by being an investor. In whom do I invest? In whom does David Tulis invest? Well, he invests in two people. One of them is himself. He's invested in his own business. And by sweat, I have bought myself into a radio station by God's good providence, right? I've bought into my own business by helping someone. I never thought this would happen to me, but here I am, owner of a radio station. And I had never thought of it that way. I'd never thought of it, never thought of being rewarded. I was just helping a man survive. I was helping a man run a radio station, and here we are, Hot News Talk Radio, 1240 a.m. And suddenly I'm an owner. It's one of those funny things. Bruce Krebs has an idea much like that. But in his idea, you buy into a business plan of somebody else. You buy into a corporation's business scheme, buy the franchise. You buy a franchise and serve that company and your clientele here in Chattanooga. So call Bruce Krebs, find out what he does. He's a consultant. He doesn't charge you a dime. Your benefit from Bruce is not charged to you. He's paid by the franchisor as you become the franchisee. Bruce Krebs, Entrepreneur Source, 875-5621. That's 875-5621. And just speaking shop here, we are members of Trade Bank of Chattanooga, and that is the smarter way to barter and to improve your cash flow, and which is something we are very grateful. Let me back up. That is something for which we are grateful. Okay, don't end a sentence in a preposition such as for. Okay, Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call Jürgen Mutz, the German with the Southern twang, who's been here in the Southland for 20 years, knows our ways and mores, and would love to serve you and get you involved with the whole world of local economy in Trade Bank of Chattanooga. 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Well, the story about Joe Keller is on TV9's website. I think there may be other coverage. He's a young man from Cleveland, and he's been missing for 2 weeks, and a prayer service was held for him Saturday at the YMCA and Sunday at the Lord's Day at Cleveland Baptist Collegiate Ministries. And there's a quote from Tammy McConnell, a woman who does not know the Keller family, but she helped plan a time of prayer followed by a balloon release on Saturday night. And she says, "I'm hoping if we can just all come together, then we can reach God for Joe, and he can give us some answers." She says that Sheriff Watson. Let's see who's talking here. Well, there's another Buddy Dilbeck, a cousin of Joe Keller. Says Sheriff Watson called me himself and said, "Don't give up hope. There are leads," according to Hannah Lawrence's story on TV9. Well, why are people praying? And what is prayer all about? And I think it's worth thinking about, because Joe Keller is being prayed for, and so is this Marine, this naval commander, Timothy White, lieutenant commander, who's a married man and let's back up and say something about the beliefs of this man who believes in the whole idea of local economy, especially when it comes to personal security. The local economy idea of personal security, again, is that you take charge yourself. You do it yourself. You don't rely on experts. You don't rely on administrations. You don't rely on bureaucracies, police departments, and the like. You are a man who is responsible. You take charge. And when it comes to defending women and children, or when it comes to defending military men in an inland base in peacetime, we are in domestically, our state of Tennessee is not at war with anybody, though its agent, the federal government, of course, is at war with many people. There's no war here, and so there was reason to expect there would be peace. You might say kind of a general peace here in Chattanooga, but Timothy White has a post where he talks about the power of God, and it's a very touching review of how he became a Christian as a young boy living in Atlanta, and at the church, at First Baptist Church, where Charles Stanley has been a preacher for many years. I'm not sure what Charles Stanley's situation is now as far as his career. He's a senior statesman, you might say, in Christianity, and Timothy White made a profession of faith. He came forward. He prayed the sinner's prayer. He said, "One night I decided that I wanted to go to heaven. I didn't want to go to hell. Hell sounded terrible to me," he says. "So I decided to pray the prayer with Pastor Stanley." And he emphasized the word decided, because I think that later on in his brief narrative, he points out that it's not your decision whether you love God, right? You're loving God and you're being loved by God. It's not something that you, my listener, accomplish. That's kind of his point. If you were going to read his essay, that's what Timothy White would point out, that it's really not up to you. It's not your work that brings you into a right relationship with God in which you are no longer being judged for your sins. He says, I knew that a true Christian would love God's word, his people, singing his praises, would love to do the right thing, and would hate sin. I tried to do those things, but I knew I was forcing myself. A born-again Christian wouldn't have to force themselves to do those things. I didn't have the changed heart that I knew I should have. So he's saying that there wasn't the fruit of Christianity in that early self-directed, self-propelled conversion, if you will. And then he tells how he had a period of terror in his life. He says, I knew that I wasn't a Christian like I thought I was. The next couple of years were frightening years for me. I knew that I would go to hell if I died in my current spiritual state. I turned to God's word and asked several pastors what I needed to do to be saved. And he says that he was deceived and that he realized that saying the sinner's prayer, which is very common here in the South among people who are in the Baptist church, that's not what saved. That's not what would save him finally. So what did save him finally is his recognition that he is saved by God's grace. He quotes a pastor as saying, "Our bad religion is usually the last to leave us." He said, "My bad religion had clouded my mind as I read God's infallible word, and if it weren't for God's mercy on me, my bad religion would have followed me to hell." And he repented of his sins. He said also in his at the end of his essay, which is at timandfranicia.com. That's TIMANDFRANICIA. Tim and Franicia. That's her name, his wife's name. And he says that he repented of his good works. And that I think is important, because that is just the opposite theory of repentance and conversion from that of the Muslims, right? The Muslims and the Muslim representative, Muhammad Abdulaziz, who shot up his facility, who shot up Timothy White's facility, has a completely diametrically opposed theory of salvation. And here again, we have this contrast. It is a clash of civilizations between Christendom and the Moorish claim upon the truth. And one system, that of Christianity, espoused by Timothy White, holds that God does everything. God saves a man from root and branch. Not the man does not do a good work and finds favor with God, right? He doesn't do anything in his own capacity. He is not virtuous in his own capacity. He does not have the right ideas in his own capacity. That a man is saved apart from all of his good works, apart from his filthy rags, quite separate from his good intentions, or his kind words, right? His spiritual thoughts, all the things that are even religiously connected are foolishness to God, who saves whom he will. Now, I don't believe that Timothy White quite goes that far, but he does quote at the end of his essay how he identifies with John Newton, the author of Amazing Grace. I was once lost, but now I'm found. I once was blind, but now I see. God's amazing grace saved a wretch like me. That's his amazing grace can save you too. And so he asks his reader on his website, "Are you born again? If so, how did God save you?" So you see, we have in the life of this Christian man who is a very great optimist. He's on his way to becoming a very rich man with so many beautiful children. Timothy White and his wife Franicia. How are you living your life? He wants to know, and so he is living his life as a Christian man. So he is now under a trial. He is under a tribulation, facing an investigation, which some people, including one group of people who are organizing Chat for Justice, and an event later this month on August the 22nd. They're planning an event here in Chattanooga, which will seek to have Timothy White absolved for his local economy thinking, his local economy self-defense concepts, in which he bore a private arm and fired from his private barrel at least a clip of private bullets at Muhammad Abdulaziz, the faithful Muslim doing a faithful Muslim's job, killing the imperialist Yankee soldiers there at the base. The email for this group that's going to be defending in public Timothy White is, you can find out more by emailing chatforjustice@gmail.com. That's CHATT 4 justice@gmail.com. That's CHATT 4 and the word justice, JUSTICE, @gmail.com. Well, at Panera Posse the other day, we were talking about the free enterprise system, and I was telling a young man about how he, without any money, could provide for himself and make his own business. And the idea we discussed was that he would go to a garage, and by his good character, his very firm handshake, his very articulate manner of speech, that he impressed upon this owner that he, Jed, the young man, would be able to provide a remarkable service at no charge to the shop owner. And here's what Jed Davis would do. He would tell the owner, look, every car that comes in here, I will clean it and make it look as good as new. I'll detail this car. Now, I don't know detailing as a profession, but I can sure learn it as I go. And I'll make every customer you have glad, not just at the repair, but at the way the repair made the car look better by my efforts. And so he would provide a cleaning and detailing service at no charge to the customer and no charge to the shop owner. Now, what happens to a shop owner who does that, right? Who goes beyond just the repair, who goes beyond just returning a filthy car to its owner, well running, but not looking much better than when it drove into the shop or was hauled into the shop on the back of a wrecker. Well, that customer is going to come back, and that customer was going to tell other people about the value added in the service given at that shop. And so what will happen is that Jed Davis, over the course of months, will increase the shop owner's business, and by the arrangement between the two, the increase in business that can be attributed to his services will bring him a commission. So he'll be getting a commission based on revenues from the increase in business that service will create. And notice what's happening here. The young man doesn't have to have capital. He just has to have an eagerness to learn. He has to be very sociable. He has to make a proposal to have a parallel, like a pilot fish business, right? The pilot fish hangs onto the back of the shark. He's propelled along by the business that comes in. He feeds off of that business and has car cleaning, detailing as much as he can for every car, working solidly without a break, hour after hour, cleaning cars. And the customers give, of course, credit to the owner of the shop. Right? The owner takes that credit and the increasing business that comes along with that. So in 4 months of work, he's not getting paid. The young entrepreneur has a business that recommends him to the owner, and he's starting to get commissions based on the increase in revenue that comes from him, right? It comes from him. If you do that as a business owner, you are going to have a lot of new business, and you're going to share that with the young entrepreneur. Now, we bring that up because that's what local economy is all about. Local economy is finding means of serving other people. We don't have to be employed. We can generate our own businesses by saying, how can I help this man over here? Maybe in some area that's quite apart from my gifts and my experience. How can I help that man over there? Who knows? You may start a fourth business or a fifth business. How? By just asking, what can I do to help you? What can I do to help you be successful? And that's what local economy is all about. Looking at the other in a personal connection, making a personal connection with people. One of my ideas is a very weak one, and that is love your neighbor, buy local. This idea that Jed Davis, I think, thought about for at least for a few minutes is in that same direction. Loving your neighbor, buying local, and making the local guy prosper. This is David Tulis. I've got something I want you to hear. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services.
Here you are,
The
working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead. 622-3156.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If you have the DT, shit, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off.
Any way that you kill somebody when they're innocent and defenseless is detestable.
My biological mother was 7.5 months pregnant when she had a saline abortion, which was meant to burn me both inside and out. And the doctors have also said that I should be blind and all of these horrendous things. Praise the Lord, the abortionist was not on duty the moment that I came into the world. Praise the Lord, the abortionist was not on duty the moment that I came into the world. I was actually delivered in an abortion clinic. Had he been there at the time, he could have ended my life with strangulation, suffocation, or leaving me there to die. But a nurse called an ambulance and had me transferred to a hospital. Had he been there at the time, he could have ended my life with strangulation, suffocation, or leaving me there to die. So then I was placed in the incubator, weighing 2 pounds, and they said I would die. And yet I just kept on living.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the Southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingraham, David Tulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Saudi Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. Days of heavy rain are taking a toll on one of Florida's biggest cities. Since last Friday, Tampa has had more than a foot of rain. Mayor Bob Buckhorn says the deluge has overwhelmed storm drains.
We probably have 24 streets that are impassable and are closed to vehicular traffic.
Even a little rain can be a big problem in Tampa.
South Tampa in particular, the topography lends itself to water collecting and staying because it's almost like a bowl.
The flooding has caused several dozen accidents, and the police have been responding to as many as 40 drivers who had to be rescued because they were trapped by high water. Wildfires are burning from one end of tinder dry California to the other. CBS's Carter Evans tells us the most dangerous fire is threatening thousands of homes about 100 miles north of San Francisco, and firefighters have their work cut out.
They've got 3,000 of them on the lines right now. They've also got about 20 aircraft in the air all day long, dropping fire retardant and water on this fire. but the winds are so erratic that it changes direction so quickly. So they think they've got the fire blocked on one side and the wind changes and it heads a whole nother direction.
A major manhunt is underway for the suspect in the murder of a Memphis police officer. CBS's Mark Strassman tells us about the cruel irony of the death of Officer Sean Bolton.
An Iraq veteran, that is, he survived a tour of duty overseas, and yet he is killed in Memphis on a routine traffic stop over less than 2 grams of marijuana.
Suspected killer Tremaine Wilborn was on supervised release for a robbery conviction. A few hours from now, President Obama will spell out final proposals to cut greenhouse gas emissions from power plants by about a third. Mining industry spokesman Luke Popovich says switching away from coal to generate electricity won't be cheap.
Those costs will be passed on to consumers, and I think that will result in greater job losses and particular hardships for low-income families.
EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy insists that's not so.
They'll tell you EPA's plan will turn the lights off or send utility bills through the roof, but they are wrong.
Teaching and being a nursing mother can be difficult.
Here are a couple of facts that sit uneasily with each other. Fact 1, federal guidelines urge mothers to breastfeed for at least 6 months. Fact 2, about 75% of teachers are women. Yet, in more than half of U.S. states, teachers and other salaried female workers have no legal right to pump their breast milk during working hours. Result, says the Washington Post, many have to choose between giving their baby a healthy start in life or keeping their job. Vicki Barker, CBS News.
Researchers in Britain and Spain have a simple test that can spot deadly pancreatic cancer in its earliest, most treatable stages. Dr. Nick Lemoyne says it's 90% accurate.
This is a urine test. We then look for the presence of 3 particular proteins that are only present in patients with the disease. And
in early trading, the Dow Industrials are down 46 points. This is CBS News.
Hi, folks. Alan Thicke here. You know, some things in life are just too serious to take chances on, and owing money to the IRS is definitely one of those. The IRS has the power to garnish your paycheck. They can levy your bank account, even take your home or business. Seriously. Thankfully, with one simple call, you can start solving your tax debt once and for all. Optima Tax Relief is the leading tax resolution firm in the nation. They have over 250 professionals. They have an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and the trust of thousands of satisfied clients. Optima's attorneys can immediately protect you from aggressive collections because they are experts in the Fresh Start Initiative. That's a special IRS debt forgiveness program that could save you thousands. Don't wait till it's too late. Get serious. Call Optima now for your free consultation.
Call 800-956-6166. 800-956-6166. 800-956-6166. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Is scheduled to vote on a cutoff of funding for Planned Parenthood. CBS's Stephen Portnoy tells us the vote comes after the release of videos showing Planned Parenthood officials negotiating for the sale of tissue from aborted fetuses.
The undercover videos have outraged Republicans.
Defund Planned Parenthood.
But the organization claims it's the victim of an orchestrated smear campaign. California Democrat Barbara Boxer calls the GOP-led push to defund Planned Parenthood an ideological attack.
And it would put women's health and women's lives at risk.
Federal funding of abortion has been banned for nearly 40 years. This Senate measure would strip Planned Parenthood of the $500 million it gets for providing general health services. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
A 44-year-old Albanian athlete who disappeared from the Special Olympics in Los Angeles has been found safe and well 350 miles away in the San Francisco Bay Area. Police have no idea how he got there. Frank Sedapani, CBS.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Noogonomics with David Tulis.
In Dallas County a couple days ago in Texas, a man ran into a jail building into the front lobby of it, and he was saying that his wife was going to kill him. And according to a TV report, he was swarmed by deputies who took him down, handcuffed him, grinded their knees into his neck. A witness said, April Berryhill, they had him in handcuffs. He wasn't fighting back. He wasn't not letting them restrain him. He was saying, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. One of the officers had him on the ground with his knee on his neck. The deputies, of course, say that they were, quote, simply trying to calm him down. But Tiffany Todd White is one of the witnesses who said that that's hardly what happened. She says, when a person is calling for help, someone should reach out and help them and not try to go in full force with the person. Try to see what's going on with that person before you start going in and treating him like a dog. Well, the man died. And one more instance, though we are hearing the story of yesterday about the Memphis police officer shot, intervening with a drug transaction, a petty drug transaction taking place in a parked vehicle. Well, my name is David Tulis. Our show is Noogonomics.com. This is the number 4 show here at AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio in Hamilton County, North Chattanooga, North Hamilton County. We cover all, and are glad that you're giving us a few minutes of your time. I have the whimsical and very weak idea that we should love our neighbors and buy local, and encompassed in that conception that is well rested every Lord's Day, right? Every Sunday, these ideas take a day off. Near is better than far. Small is better than big. Simple than complex. And then, since you should always make arguments by 3 points and no more, save your other material for the footnotes. Just subordinate that material correctly. And in the footnotes, you'll find personal is better than corporate and physical than abstract. We want to make mention to you here of Ducks, the indoor air professionals. If you have mold and mildew problems in your factory or your building or office or home, make sure you call Ducks and have the highly trained crew of Mark Thompson come and clear out your duct work. If you have your house done, there's a $99 job that comes for free, and that is the clearing of your dryer vents, which is a fire hazard. Fire hazard is there in your dryer vents, building up every time your sweetheart runs the laundry for you, and potential for fire. So call Ducts at 876-9907, 876-9907. And if you're hungry, go out to eat today. Go local, of course. Try Delia's Authentic Mexican Restaurant in South Saudi Daisy. Maria Hernandez runs this delightful little restaurant. It's not highbrow. It's not exactly lowbrow. It's kind of middle of the road, and you'll enjoy her fresh ingredients and everything cooked to perfection, whether it's the quesadillas, the enchiladas, the nachos, the crazy chicken tamales. Monday, the special is the taco salad, and that's number 19 on the menu. It's $1 off. It's $6.25. Ask for mention our station and ask for your free iced tea. Okay, ask for the free iced tea, mentioning our little radio station. My show is the number 4. Number 1 is Digital Drive. Number 2, probably the great national neocon hero, Sean Hannity. And number 3, I don't have much doubt, is Tex, Cowboy Up with Tex, which follows our drive home news show. His show is at 6 in the evening. And our skies were heavily laced with geoengineering aerosols yesterday. I don't know if you noticed, but I couldn't help shoot my camera, my little digital imager, multiple times as I drove about, and occasionally stopped when I saw a particularly good configuration of things in the foreground, such as trees and buildings, and the tracings of aerosol depositing jets as part of the great program, the great war against the sun, being waged by the Democratic administration and the deep state, which is behind it and cares not for party labels. We have weather intervention here in Chattanooga, though not subject to the regulation of NOAA, the National Oceanic and Aeronautics Administration, which requires paperwork to be filled out for all those modifying the weather, and that paperwork is not filled out. Okay, we have verified that by a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act request, and half of that FOIA is still to be answered, and that is regarding 2 days in 2014, of which we made inquiry. And that is the military role that day. The military has to give approval for me to obtain this information of 2 days, Sundays, as it turns out. I think one was October, one November of 2014. We were subject, like yesterday, to a visitation, nothing less than a visitation of cross-hatching jets spewing their particulate. The aerosol particulate that's laid down is aluminum, strontium, and barium, and the science of laying these trails for weather modification and other purposes, of course, is well developed since the 1960s. There's a story on the news cycle today about the federal administration, the good people, and the EPA administrator, Gina McCarthy. There's an effort to cut 30% the emissions that are spewed by energy plants, power producing plants. But that's the bad kind of pollution. The good pollution, though, is that which the good people lay for us in the way of nanoparticulates that have several purposes. One is to deflect the sunlight and to create a mask over the face of the earth. And it has been continuing here, ramped up. There was a break in July in the treatments that this area received from the national power. Though we were given stratospheric aerosol geoengineering blessings, if you will, on July 8th, July the 10th, July the 16th, and also the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th. And then there was, like I said, the first part of the month of July, maybe in celebration of the founding. The national government delayed depositing these aerosols, the good pollution, right, for several days, but then picked up in the second half of July. And here we are, August, and the good people have been busy with their jets. Some, no doubt, under contract with the federal government. Others, the actual stratotanker jets that number 400 or more that are used and have been used since the 1970s, probably as part of the atmospheric modification program. In August, we have August 2, which is yesterday, and August 3 today. We have it. And there were photographs at Geoengineering Our Tennessee Skies on Facebook showing the similar weather patterns elsewhere in the state. In the central Tennessee, in Knoxville, a lady named Marla Stairwood posts photographs, and here in Chattanooga, Blackie Dar, who's a man who puts tattoos on the skins of the unfortunate, takes photographs. And I also do. I've not posted mine. Ordinarily, when there's a big demonstration, I post mine at Noogonomics.com, but I've been taking kind of a break in writing that website, of which I'm the editor. My name is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. We're talking about the whole idea of prayer. There in Cleveland, Saturday and Sunday, there were two instances of Christian people praying for intervention. Now, here we are. Noogonomics.com and David Tulis, we are people who are against intervention. Well, we're against intervention of one kind, and very much in favor, very much in favor of intervention of another kind. And the story out of Cleveland is regarding that of the student, the young man whose name is Joe Keller, missing in Colorado. He's been missing for 2 weeks now. And police here are conveying information from police there. And there's a Facebook page that has been set up, Find Joe Keller, regarding prayer and donations to this family who is missing, or whose members are missing this young man. There's a question about prayer. Why do Christians pray? Well, they're asking for the creator of the world, in fact, the whole universe, to intervene. They want God's will to be accomplished, and they're asking that his will be accomplished in such a way that Joe Keller emerges from the mystery in his face, right? We can see his hair, his nose, his eyes, his shoulders, his shirt. There he is. He has emerged again and appeared among the living. We are to pray with an awful apprehension of the majesty of God, according to a very famous summary of the Christian faith, and deep sense of our own unworthiness, necessities, and sins. And the question is, how are we to pray? With penitent, thankful, and enlarged hearts, with understanding, faith, sincerity, fervency, love, and perseverance, waiting upon him God, that is, with humble submission to his will. So people pray asking God to bring about their wish, to bring about the rescue of a young man, to bring about possibly here now the good issue of an investigation into Lieutenant Commander Timothy White, a devout Christian man, a big family man who has 7 children, who is being investigated for trying to save lives of the soldiers. Well, let me back up there. Let me back up. Trying to save lives of fellow Marines, fellow sailors and Marines at the Naval Reserve Center along Amnicola Highway. He was a man who was in charge of that facility, had authority to grant permission for the bearing of weapons, and had his own weapon with him, and fired upon Mohammed Abdulaziz, the Muslim attacker who was there to kill as many American soldiers, as many enemies of the caliphate as he could, with 2 weapons. So prayer is something that Christian people do. They pray to God with whom they have a personal relationship, and that's what's so remarkable about Christianity. Christianity posits a personal God, a totally personal God who made all things, including the sky, including ordinary cumulus clouds, some of which I saw last week, though yesterday we saw very many man-made clouds brought about by the intervention of man in the weather and in the quality of the air. Remember, when men do good, they often can't do good well. The goodness of geoengineering, the goodness of weather modification by a secret program touches your health. It touches your health, though we have to understand that the American government cares not about collateral damage among the civilian population a whit, not one whit. And my name is David Tulis. I do thank you for joining me here at our show on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And want to mention also that prayer, what is prayer? Prayer is an offering up of our desires unto God in the name of Christ by the help of his Spirit, with confession of our sins and thankful acknowledgement of his mercies. That's what prayer is. So people are praying for Joe Keller, the missing student in Cleveland. And then many others are praying for a Christian man who's a naval commander here in a landlocked city with his base facility shot up. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, David, I don't want to get all biblical on you, but before I want to read this little passage from Ezekiel. But before I do that, I just want to say the idea that the Navy, which existed, actually literally the Marines prior to the Constitution, that were tasked with defending the borders of our country and our country, are disarmed is an absurdity. So thank George Bush Sr. for that, the New World Order, one world government, Illuminati who wants to disarm all Americans. All right, and Obama's nothing more than the white, partially white, bad version of Bush Jr. However, because this just is really angering me, and I'm not making an argument. It angers me that the idea of someone who's tasked with defending the country, they claim can't carry a gun in unconstitutional, illegal, gun-free zones. It's absurd beyond belief. Americans should be screaming and saying, George Bush Sr., you had no authority to put this into effect. This is unconstitutional on its face. And any person that would think that, oh, they need to follow the law, the military code, and not carry a gun, is a nut. In Ezekiel 33, but if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, and the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes a person from them, and he is taken away in his iniquity. But his blood I will require from the watchman's hand. In other words, if this commander didn't act on his own, God would judge him for that. He was required to protect those individuals aside what man writes.
Well, the problem that you're creating is that this unit here in Chattanooga is not the Watchman. We are inside of a union of 50 countries or 50 states, and the unit here, the post here, is not on the border. It is internal to the country, and we have to remember that we are not under occupation. Our country, as far as we know, is not under occupation by any foreign power. The United States is a foreign power. It has jurisdiction over the sea. It has maritime jurisdiction. It also has what's called interstate jurisdiction, which is in the Constitution extremely limited, though the good people over the years have expanded the idea of interstate jurisdiction to give virtually blanket authority of the national power to do anything it wants, but it can't legally do it, and its agents have to be challenged on that point. But we don't want bases. We don't want men in the civilian area to be armed. Why? Because we're not under occupation. If they were all armed, that would be changing the relationship of the people at that base, the Marines at that little base, that facility along Amnicola Highway. It would change the relationship between those people and my listener. And I don't think that my listener wants to view himself as being under occupation. Well, I do thank you. My name is David Tulis. I wanted to mention a story about Uber in Chattanooga. If you're an Uber driver, please give me a call or contact me through my website. The website is Noogonomics.com. I've been trying for some time to find an Uber person through Facebook, and I had last week a connection with an Uber driver who works part-time delivering newspapers, the Chattanooga Times-Free Press, and also working for Uber in the Manchester, Tennessee area. So that's not local necessarily, but close enough. So if you're an Uber driver, give me a call or contact me. I'd like to chat with you and have you come on the show to talk about why you're doing the Uber gig. Uber, according to a page one story, the top story a couple of days ago in the Wall Street Journal, is valued past $50 billion. Now, I just find that astounding that it has genuinely that much value. And part of the reason for its value is something I don't think I can really get into right now, and that is that investors from the financialized part of the economy are trying to make a killing in it. It seems to me that it's hugely overvalued, maybe by 4 or 5 times. I don't really know why I would say that, but it seems to me that for what it does in only a couple hundred cities, it can't be worth that much. It just can't be. So somewhere there's something that's not quite right. On the other hand, I say that I mentioned this headline and talk about its prominence in the leading financial newspaper of the country because the Uber dynamic is one that we need to look forward to. There's a story at FEE, which is the Foundation for Economic Education, by a writer named Zachary Slayback, and he's talking about how Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York took huge flack when he took up the case against Uber on behalf of the taxi industry, which of course is a cartel. Taxis are cartels. They are quasi-monopolies granted special license to carry people for hire, and their medallions are hugely expensive. They cost $500,000 to buy a medallion for a cab in Manhattan. People were, of course, when they heard about de Blasio's move to block Uber, they were just angry as could be. So he had tremendous outpouring, mockery against him from around the globe. People were complaining to him. People are very peeved, riled up that he is attacking the ride-sharing business. Of course, Uber is a ride-sharing business. It is the sharing economy. It is effectively a national body, a highly overvalued national company, which allows there to be in every town, every city, an Uber relationship where people have a relationship between ride givers and ride takers. Okay, and the problem that comes into view with this essay at the Foundation for Economic Education is that people are attacking Uber because they're, as the writer says, rationally ignorant. While taxi and consumer regulations often hurt the consumers they are paraded around to protect, most people don't see the costs of the regulations in traditional markets. Regulations may cost them a few dollars more, but taking the time to become well-read on the matter and reaching out to a city hall likely costs them more. Meanwhile, the taxi companies have millions to gain from successful lobbying efforts. Lyft, Uber, and Sidecar are being targeted by the cartels who don't want to be bypassed, who don't want to be, or should I say, don't want to be outflanked. Airbnb and Uber, Airbnb deals with rental housing for overnight stays, are terrific concepts. They are part of local economy. And if you are involved in either of these two, Airbnb or Uber, please contact me. My name is David Tulis, and you can contact me through Noogonomics.com. I'd like to talk to you.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. When my brother and I opened the first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
News Talk 1240.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items. For Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jed's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. HotNewsTalkRadio.com and half off. Surf our site and ride the wave of savings.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingraham, David Tulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Pam Crusoe. Donald Trump is surging, topping another poll days before the first Republican presidential debate.
I've never debated before. That's all these guys do. They debate. They don't do anything, but they debate every night.
Trump telling Fox he doesn't have pollsters telling him what to say. The Fox News Facebook Republican debate can be heard live on Thursday at 5 and 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News channel and on Fox News Radio. A pair of explosions near churches in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Only a coward would place an explosive device in a place of peace and a place of worship.
Governor Susana Martinez, no one was hurt Sunday morning. Consumer spending slowing down in June, up just 0.2%, its smallest increase in 4 months. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Noogonomics with David Tulis.
David Tulis Show brought to you by Superior Air. Also want you to make sure that if you have printing needs that you go to Advantage Printing, near the Belvoir Light on Brainerd Road, just past the Bilo, just right next to the Bilo. Alan Jones will take care of you. In-house design, digital printing, mailing services, large format projects that'll fill a whole wall if need be. And you can save on bulk mailing. Again, it's Advantage Printing, 629-1800, 629-1800. I've been thinking about this impossible idea that I have about agrarian versus industrial. And I'm asking myself the question, how can we get back to what we had? Is it just a kind of a silly dream? Is it just a bit of sentimentality because I've read, I'll take my stand from the agrarian Southern writers back in 1931? Is it that? Or is it just a sense of longing that it's really impossible to try to satisfy in our digital age? How do we get back to the way of thinking that we used to have? Now, part of the answer to that question is I'd like to suggest local economy, or if you want to put it in the way of a special word, it's Noogonomics. Noogonomics is the idea of the free market and local economy, and having a personal sense, a personal commitment to favor local over national, to invest local over national, to divest national, if you will, and invest local, to say that not quite grammatically, but with the point, right? It has a bit of a punch to say it that way, to divest national and invest local. You're using adjectives when you should be using adverbs, right? But that's okay. It's just a saying, and it gets across the point perhaps more vigorously than if you said it more correctly. Divest nationally and invest locally. That doesn't have the same punch, right? And we are here, of course, trying to make things attractive. And so if I have to give up a bit of grammatical precision, well, I'm a writer. I can handle it, and I'm sure you can too. I do thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time here for the number 4 show at Hot News Talk Radio. I'm facing some competition. I might be bumped back to number 5. Eric Judd has got a lively hour just after me, but we're the show that has Digital Drive with Russell the Kid every day at noon. That's just ahead Digital Drive if you have to go somewhere or go out to eat for lunch or run errands for the office, or go to the post office to get the mail. Make sure you tune in to Russell, the young man who never set foot in a classroom, but has a real idea where anarchy is found today. And it's not among the college student crowd at all. College student crowds are so pacific anymore. They're all debtors. They're all beholden to the system. And they are made safe by trigger mechanisms which save them from having to hear ideas and arguments which are against them somehow, offending to them. The anarchy, as Russell points out, is among the good people. And we're trying to find out our way back. He's trying to find out his way back, and I'm trying to find our way back to the status quo ante. I'm thinking maybe of the 1920s, but that's not quite accurate. What we're looking for really is a state of mind and a state of heart in which we are seeking prosperity and finding a way of understanding the crisis in which we are today. We're living in a crisis, and are hurting for it in our spirits. And indeed, the Lord's Day, which is Sunday of the first day of the week, is a reprieve from these harassing problems. And I would suggest that the answers are to be found in Christianity. That Christianity has the answers, though we can say that Christianity brought us the Industrial Revolution. It brought us capitalism. And many other things that are attended with many problems. We could not say they're caused by Christianity, but Christianity changes things. It changes culture. You could even say that Marxism comes out of the Reformation. And in a way, Marxism being a Christian heresy, it does. It comes out of the end of the Roman Catholic monolith, the Roman Catholic hegemony over culture and religion. the dead hand, if you will, of its orthodoxy in the 1600s. But we really can't say, we really cannot attribute Marxism and Leninism to Christianity, except that it's a deformation of some of its ideals. Well, I've been thinking about the idea of agrarian versus industrial, and helping me in this direction is a farmer who is an apprentice, or has been an apprentice at a foundation in Maryland. Her name is Holly Elliott, and she says that she's talking about the Industrial Revolution and how the production of food shifted to large commercial farms, where the products of industry such as combine harvesters and fossil fuel-based fertilizers are used to reduce required human labor while increasing production. She says, no longer needed for the production of food, excess labor is moved into factories where mechanization is utilized to further increase efficiency. As populations grow and mechanization is further refined, often to the level of automation, many workers shift to expanding service industries. So she's tracking the rise of the modern money economy, which took place in the 20s and 30s. Industrialism prescribes an economy not connected to land. Now, this is interesting, I think, because we are trying to become land-oriented somehow. We're trying to connect to place, right? Chattanooga is a place. Hamilton County is a place. If you, my listener, are just traveling through town on the highway, your place and where your home is, that is a particular location. And what's happened to your relationship to that place has been over the decades altered by industrialism, she says. An economy that is placeless and displacing, meaning it does not distinguish one place from another. It applies its methods and technologies indiscriminately all over the globe. It thus continues the economy of colonialism. The shift of colonial power from European monarchy to global corporation is perhaps, she says, the dominant theme of modern history. All along, it has been the same story of the gathering of an exploitative economic power into the hands of a few people who are alien to the places and the land and the people they exploit. And here we think the liberal thinks of the 1%. Here, the free marketer, like me, the classical liberal, right, thinks of the 1%. And then the 0.09%, that tiny fraction of the 1% who are always prospering and who don't shop at Walmart. Such an economy is bound to destroy locally adapted agrarian economies everywhere it goes. And so she talks about the necessary conditions for local economy. And one of them is the idea of subsistence. And you might say, well, that just sounds crazy, but just listen to what she says. She says, in contrast, everything that happens on an agrarian farm is conditioned and determined by the understanding that there is only so much land, so much water in the cistern, so much hay in the barn, so much firewood in the shed, so much food in the cellar or freezer, so much strength in the back and arms, and no more. This is the understanding that induces thrift, family coherence, neighborliness, and local economies. Within accepted limits, these become, this farmer says, necessities. The agrarian sense of abundance comes from the experienced possibility of frugality and renewed within limits. So you see, there's a limit in the agrarian idea. There is a limit in the modern industrial idea, the idea that's peddled on television, that if we watch the morning shows on TV, sometimes I see that TV running in my bedroom. That is the idea that there is no limit, that it all belongs to you, that it's all there to serve you. The whole economy, the whole world exists for your pleasure, your immediate gratification, your delight, your gustatory delight, your sensual delight, your technological delight. Everything is about you. She says this is exactly the opposite of the industrial idea, that abundance comes from the violation of limits. Okay, here's the problem, the litany of critique, if you will, of critiques of the industrial economy. By personal mobility, extractive machinery, long-distance transport, and scientific or technological breakthroughs. If we use up the good possibilities in this place, well, we import goods from another place, or we will go to some other place. If nature releases her wealth too slowly, okay, that's a problem, we will take it by force. In the industrial society, we make the world too toxic for honeybees. Some specialized corporation will invent tiny robots that will fly about, pollinating flowers and making honey. It conceives of farming and forestry as forms of mining. Now, that I think is a terrific insight. The industrial economy conceives of farming and forestry as forms of mining. It cannot use the land without abusing it. The industrial mindset also has contempt for anything small, rural, or natural, she says. And that translates into contempt for uncentralized economic systems, any sort of local self-sufficiency in food or other necessities. The industrial solution for such systems is to increase the scale of work and trade. It brings big ideas, big money, and big technology into small rural communities, economies, and ecosystems. The brought in industry and the experts being invariably alien and contemptuous of the places to which they are brought in. The result is, now this is very much like my own analysis. The result is that problems correctable on a small scale are replaced by large-scale problems for which there are no large-scale corrections. This is what Holly Elliott, a farmer who was for a time an apprentice at the Accokeek Foundation in Maryland, says. Meanwhile, the large-scale enterprise has reduced or destroyed the possibility of small-scale corrections. What's the way out of this predicament? Now, let me ask you, what do you think is the way out of the predicament that she rightly describes? And we have evidence of this here in Chattanooga, here in Hamilton County, and in the more rural surrounding counties in the area of Hamilton. What's the way out of this predicament? How about promoting the old ideal of personal independence, not the kind of independence that makes people act without regard for other people, or that makes them assume they can get along without other people. The type of independence by which a person provides some of his or her own needs, and which permits him or her to do what he or she sees to be right without the approval of consumer culture. We're talking about the type of independence that comes through connection to land and place. Maybe, says this farmer, maybe that's why Thomas Jefferson was an advocate for keeping so many people as many people as possible on the land. He thought keeping people landed, right? Are you landed? Independent in the way that the ownership and care of a piece of land can make them was the best thing for our world. In other words, she's saying that we need to have a connection to land. It's an odd thing that in my church there's a young man. His name is Dustin Anderson, and it's very important for him somehow to get some land. He just has the idea at age 23 or 24, he's a military man, that if he just has some land, he can make it work out. So in other words, you live on the land, you try to make your living there. It's your base of operations. Maybe the land is actually productive. I think that's kind of what he yearns for, to have a connection with the land, to be independent. And that is, of course, there's a great truth about what the marketplace is. Where does capital, or from where capital comes? Capital comes from the application of human sweat to land or resources under the ground. In other words, gold or silver, coal, steel. That's where wealth comes from. Wealth comes from mining those things and producing products and goods such as cars from them. Land and natural resources that are the object of human interaction, human industry. That's where wealth comes from. I'm thinking that a lot of the wealth that seems to be produced today in the digital economy may be something of a mirage, may be just very much a froth on the top of a bubble. And a bubble, of course, which has been created quite apart from any of the concepts that this farmer, Holly Elliott, who has been an apprentice at a foundation in Maryland, would say. She says that the idea of subsistence, that the idea that there are limits, is a very helpful idea. It keeps people together. It keeps families together. Why do families break up? Why do couples break apart? Well, because there's always a possibility beyond that relationship. We need to break up because, well, there are other possibilities, whether for a man finding a woman, a better domestic arrangement, a better way. People are not content. They're not they're not given the grace of contentment, and they don't recognize limits. If you're married, if you, my listener, are married, you have one wife. Okay, you're bound before God to her and her alone, and you have to keep to her. So how do you have a delightful relationship with your wife? How do you have how do you get back to the way things were when you just got married? Okay, you've been married for 10 years, let's say, or maybe you've been married 30 years. What about that relationship? How come it's fallen into such bad habits? Well, there's a lack of freshness in our perspective that causes that. And I would say probably from a Christian analysis, there's a lack of gratitude to God for our wives, and that's why men are gruff and contemptuous of their wives. They're curt, they're short, they're not. There's not conversation like there used to be. There's not a real relationship like there once was. And this is a personal insight that you're having into your own life. I understand that, but what about in the larger picture where I am? Okay, I'm part of the larger picture. I'm trying to figure out here at our radio station, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, what we are to do in the coming crisis. We are facing a crisis which has been created by credit. The whole thing comes from a point which was the cause of the founding of our republic. The cause was paper money in and among the colonies and the states, and then legal tender laws which forced people to accept depreciated paper notes as money, as payment in debt. Well, we have that same problem now, and we have no end to the new money that has been and that even can be created as the crisis crystallizes, as the crisis forms itself, and these bureaucracies created to prevent it, created to give security, are in fact the cause of the tremendous insecurity that we find in national economy. There's tremendous insecurity and a great deal of brittleness. The system cannot last. It cannot respond to crises. It's incapable of responding to crises such as a wave of doubt. What if a wave of doubt strikes not just you, but your neighbor, and people down the street, and people in your office, and people across town, and not just in our city, but across our state? What if people in Atlanta are all suddenly feeling the same doubt? And what if it happens all at once? Well, you'll have a tremendous sell-off in a market, in the equities market, in the public markets. There will be no buyers. There will simply be sellers and no buyers, and things will go back to where they're supposed to be, down, falling tremendously. The mutual funds, the stock market, all of which are highly leveraged. They're built. These markets are built upon credit, upon an economy, and fostered by an economy that doesn't know limits. And the reason it doesn't know limits is no one believes in limits. Why would you believe in limits? Why would any government believe in limits? Why would a mayor believe in limits? Well, there's always another program we can have, right? We can solve our problems by another program. We can solve our problems by new injections of credit, by suppressing the marketplace particularly in the rate of interest. And it might seem like an obscure analysis to go out to the interest rate and the artificial suppression of it, talking here about the industrial economy. But what this farmer is pointing out to is that we live in a national economy, in a digital economy, even an industrial economy that doesn't know limits, is not connected to the land. Well, if her analysis is right, then part of your solution needs to be connection to the land. And I know you say, well, man, David, are you saying that I need to go and buy a piece of property? Well, what am I going to do with it? Well, I'm not saying that, okay? I'm not saying that you need to buy a piece of land. That's not how it's solved. But the problem, I think we have to walk toward the solution, or let's say walk out of the pit that we're in, out of the mud puddle, right? If you're in a mud puddle, you can't just suddenly be out of it and all dry and clean. You have to get onto your knees, right? And then you put one foot out, and then you stand on that one foot, and then you pull up the other foot. That's how you get out. It's a series of steps, long steps, that take some sense of bearing. And I think one sense of the reason I'm arguing for Noogonomics as a solution is that encapsulates the solution. It encapsulates local economy solutions, whether it's for personal defense, That would be let every man be armed, right, to defend women and children, to defend unarmed people from attack. That's a local economy solution. We just have to hope that the local economy solution in protection of the innocent be Uberized at some point soon. We just need to have the right kind of app that could be the Uber Cop app. I'm waiting for someone at Lamppost Group to develop that idea, and it will be developed somewhere by someone as the market calls for a replacement of a terrific force of violence in our cities, and that would be police departments. I've got a call. Hang on, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, I hear there's an organization called Chattanoogans for Justice that are going to be marching August 22nd in front of the federal building. I'm looking at your tweet on your on your Twitter that says they're looking for 100,000 people from all over the country to march in front of the federal building in solidarity for the sailor that's being investigated, because based on the history of the Marxist Obama administration, they'll probably try to charge him for something, because we know Obama hates patriots, constitutionalists, libertarians, and Christians. That's just his track record. So it'll be great to, and I think I'd love to have you, if your station can cover this, this would be great. And they said their Gmail is chat with the number 4 justice at gmail.com, and chat for justice. So I think they're on Facebook too. I'm not real sure, but they said the march is going to be on the 22nd of August, Saturday at noon, in front of the federal building. So I hope to see you guys there.
Okay, that's a caller telling us that there's a Gmail address. If you want to find out more, a website is being, or a Facebook page is being developed. It's chatforjustice@gmail.com. That's CHATT4 justice@gmail.com. An event scheduled for August the 22nd in front of the Joel Solomon Federal Building, a federal fort, if you will, that secures the national government's interests here in the volunteer state, the once free state of Tennessee, which has some free-minded people in it. Now, the goal of 100,000 people in front of a federal court is very, very ambitious. If 100 people showed up, I think that would be terrific. If 100 people show up defending the idea of Timothy White, the lieutenant commander here in Chattanooga, who is being now investigated, who's in trouble for violating apparently some of the rules that govern the use of the carrying, the holding, and the storing of private arms on a federal military facility. We are looking at a document, a 108-page document that talks about Navy physical security and law enforcement program. And Timothy White was the commander. It was to him, anybody who wanted to carry a weapon on the facility that was shot up by Muhammad Abdulaziz had to ask for permission. He is the man to give the permission, and he evidently gave it to himself. But did he fill out the proper paperwork, asking himself to get permission to carry his personal sidearm, which he used to try to hit and injure or even kill this faithful Muslim, non-radicalized, non-extreme, who killed 5 or fatally injured 5 American military people here in Chattanooga on July 16. The paperwork is detailed that one is supposed to follow. And is he a hero, or is he a man who shamefully ignored the paperwork requirements of the requiring naval officers to go through a lot of detailed rules on personal weapons on the base? Well, this is David Tulis. Our show is Noogonomics.com, and David Tulis Show is now the David Tulis Show. Our topic, yes, our topic is Noogonomics. That is the answer to the coming disaster, whether it be from the world of the Muslim worshiper or from the world of the worshiper of credit, who thinks that there's no limit to the amount of money that can be created by just borrowing it into existence. If we do that, we'll be safe, we'll be rich, we'll be secure.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.